Whitey, why don't you talk a little bit about how you first met Terry in conjunction with that camp?
Well, actually, I have a son, Jim, that was working for Keystone Ski Corporation, and got to know a good friend of Bill DeForest, and then they, of course, knew Larry Gentry.
Larry J.
And Jim got was playing pickup basketball games up there in the mountains and really damaged his middle finger on his right hand real bad, and it turned out that he didn't get it taken care of. It was very stiff. I guess a doctor would probably call it a frozen finger. I mean, that's how bad it was. And for some reason, it was brought to Larry Gentry's attention, who runs some softball fields in Denver. And Jim was playing in that league when Keystone moved him down to their offices. And the next thing I know, Dr. Yochum's getting Jim fixed up to get that finger fixed up. And after that was all done, Jim was very appreciative of it. I didn't know him at the time, but Jim knew that he was an ardent baseball fan and not an old baseball jock or anything, but he did play a lot of baseball in the St. Louis area as a kid. And he came up to the Keystone one night, and we had dinner and met the family, the kids, his wife, and we had a wonderful time. And since that time, I've pretty much stayed in touch with Dr. Yochum.
And how many years ago was that?
Well, I would think,
Over 10, Whitey.
I would say 10, 11, 12
Well,
years.
you know, the oldest boy, Jim's oldest boy, is 12.
Yeah,
So it would have been at least 12 or 13 years.
yeah, because
right?
he didn't have any
He had-
children at the time.
Him and Gina had no kids
Right.
when I treated him.
Right, that's
right.
true.
So this is one association, unlike most of your associations, the professional side of your practice introduced you to somebody in the baseball world. It's usually the other way around for Terry. Baseball introduces him to the people.
Well, you know, I go back and had a professional career about 47 years, and I've always admired the people of baseball and writers that I thought really liked their jobs. And if I had to name one writer that I thought loved baseball till the day he died, and he died 2 years ago, was Bob Brigg. His love of baseball was something that it was just amazing. And then I look at owners. I got to work for Gussie Bush, and I got to work for Gene Autry. And I don't think I've ever seen an owner that loved baseball like Gene Autry. I mean, he loved it. And then after I met Terry, I don't know if anybody loves baseball more than Terry. And I know that I've seen him down at the Cardinal Legend Camp, and man, he's serious when he gets out in that field. You got a bunch of guys that come out of the snow. They land at West Palm Beach, Florida. They come over to the Cardinal Complex. They play 5 games in 3 days. And how in the world they can do that, I don't know. I mean, I know that he knows a lot about medicine and chiropractors and so forth. And every night when I get done there and take my shower and I come out, I look in the trainer's room. And I'm not kidding you, it looks like an ice house. I never seen so much ice on a bunch of players. They're all about 55 to 70 years old. Some of them ain't never played baseball in their life. They send in their resumes, and the one guy said baseball career, and he put TV. Another guy, I asked him one day, I said, when's the last time you played baseball? And he said, I'm 74. I said, well, when's the last time you actually played? He said, well, this is my first year here. He said, I played Little League. I said, so you haven't played a baseball game for 63 years and you're here playing 5 games in 3 days? He said, yeah. And they dive for balls. I mean, they play. And the first game, they got a lot of pep and so forth. The second game, it levels off a little bit. By the 5th game on Saturday, when they're playing for the championship, you have to take them out to the outfield and golf carts. They just can't get out there anymore. It's the darndest thing I've ever seen. And the one thing that I did want to say about the camp, I never knew that baseball was that hard to play till I watched these guys. But every once in a while, you get a Terry Yochum. And he doesn't have the smoke, I'm sure, that he used to have, but he still spins the ball. He can turn it over. He still strikes. And you can see that he's a pretty polished pitcher and that he's played a lot of baseball in his life. And they stand out. So Terry stands out pretty good down there. And this past year he didn't get there, and everybody was asking for him. I remember the year before he was pitching a championship game and made a pretty good pitch on a guy, and he hit a CNI dog ground ball single left field to beat him. And He never smiled at all at the banquet that night. I never seen such a heartbroken guy in my life as Terry Yochum that night.
How's it like playing for a major league legend, Terry?
Well, I mean, for me to have gotten to know Whitey first through his son, and then secondarily, it's been wonderful. What was really neat, Whitey, this last game I pitched against Noble, he was 38, I was 58, remember? And Whitey came over, and they all ride around on these golf carts. Well, it's an epicenter, and then there's 4 fields. And God bless Whitey, he comes over there, he plants his cart right there. He says, "That's my son's doctor, that's the chiropractor, I'm watching him." And then you got a Rabowski, then you got Shandy's, then you got Brock to come over and watch me pitch. And I had a 1-0 lead going in the 7th inning. When he got the bad hop, I'd have won the damn game.
Yeah, and
Remember?
you got to realize this, Terry. When you got a 1-0 lead in the 7th inning, them infielders don't have much range.
Yeah.
I mean, if they go one step to their right or to their left and don't fall down, they've done a heck of a job.
If I had a 1-0 lead going into the 7th, what I really needed was me out of the game and a closer. That's what I needed.
Well, yeah, you needed a fireballer out there, but the big thing is a 1-0 game in that thing down there is amazing. I mean, you did pitch well, and
Yeah, it's the
pitched very
best
well.
I pitched there. And remember, I got hit in that game. Noble hit me, remember? And you were sitting right there, and Whitey's really close. That thing is close to the plate. It's not real far away. So Whitey's sitting in his cart, and then there's Lou Brock here, and there's Red Shandy's over here, and I got hit. Remember, Whitey? And I mean, the guy threw pretty hard. Noble threw pretty hard.
Noble's throw. He didn't throw as hard this past year. He's lost a lot.
He lost a bit,
But he's gained a lot of weight.
It happens to all of us, you know?
Yeah, well, he's
So-
still young, though.
Yeah, well, he was 38 when I pitched against him. I was
About
58
40 now.
2 years ago. Yeah. So I go down there, and it hit me, stunned me pretty good, you know? And the first thing I remember hearing is Whitey yelling, "Get up, this is not the Academy Awards."
Well, I really didn't say it like that. I said, "Hey, Doc, it's not on TV. Go on down there first."
It was great, you know. So, you know, the best part of the fantasy camp is I've been fortunate enough, you know, to pitch good a couple of times. But the best part of the camp is on the next day when you're in the locker room and your coaches are talking about you and they're ragging about you and they're, you know, getting you up and getting you down and whatever. And that's the fun. And then on Thursday night, they've got the tell them what you do on Thursday night. Talk with the stars, as they call it, or you got all these ball players that played for you. It's unbelievable.
Well, basically, I've been pretty lucky. I've been down there now the last 4 or 5 years, and I think there's 22 other guys down there, and I think last year 18 of them had played for me during my time with the Cardinals. I think there was only Brock, Shandy's, Savage, and one other guy. The rest, the 18 other players that were there, the managers and coaches, they all had played for the Cardinals while I was here in the 80s. So it's a pretty fun time for me to see them, and they all try to get back at me and tell stories and so forth. But they ain't going to get me. I mean, because I got a hell of a lot more stories about them than they got about me.
Probably a lot you haven't told anybody. You're still holding back a couple of cards.
Right.
And I always revered the comments that you made. John Tudor's been there every year I've been there.
Yeah, he wasn't here the past year.
The first year I went when you weren't there, Tudor and Danny Cox were my like managers. And John Tudor is treated by a chiropractor buddy of mine, Joel Green, who played for Frazier in Miami, and he was a roommate with Bruce Sutter. And him and Draghi were roommates, Joel Green. And I always thought it was an amazing statement that you made, and I know you've always believed that and said that more than once. If you had, of all the guys that pitched for you, if you had one guy to pitch a game when it counted, it was John Tudor, eh?
Well, basically, you know, I traded for him. I traded George Henrik after the 1984 season to Pittsburgh for John Tudor and Brian Harper. And I liked Tudor when he was with the Red Sox. He had another left-hander over there, Bruce Hurst. And when I talked to Ralph Houck about him at the winter meetings before I made the trade, I told him I liked both of them. And I think I said I'd take either one of them. And the Red Sox still had Hurst, and I couldn't make a deal with him. So Pittsburgh wanted Henrik, and I knew I was going to put a void in my lineup. But George was getting at an age where he didn't want to play against certain people. He was really the only long ball threat I had. He hit these 20 home runs a year, and a good ball player, a good right fielder. So I thought made the deal. And John Tudor started off that season in 1985. He was 1-7. and I went to a 4-man rotation basically because I didn't have 5 starters, and I ended up. John Tudor ended up, after starting 1-7, 22-8, and didn't lose again until the 7th game of the World Series, which we shouldn't have been out there. You know what happened in that 6th game, but. He was an amazing guy. He holds the Cardinal won and loss percentage record with anybody over 50 decisions. He didn't throw harder than 87. He never threw a breaking ball to a right-hand hitter. All he did was change speeds. He hid the ball very good, but every once in a while he could slip that fastball inside, and he was a tremendous pitcher. And I want to tell you another thing about him, which people don't know. Sandy Koufax has a left-handed shutout record for a left-hand pitcher. And Tudor pitched 10 innings against the Mets, nothing. I had to take him out, and Daly gave up a home run to Strawberry in the 11th, or he had tied Koufax's record for the most shutouts in a season by a left-hander.
That's an amazing record.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sandy Koufax.
Of course, Waller Johnson holds the record in the American League with 16 shutouts. Now, if they make 16 quality starts of 6 innings, they think they're worth about $10 million.
So you had all those really great pitchers, and you know pitching, you know athletes. How would you assess Dr. Yochum as a pitcher and an athlete?
Well, if you want to say, if I want to assess him as a 60-year-old guy, he's probably in the top 10%. Maybe top 5% of people in shape and can still move around, do things, and look like a ball player. Now, I didn't see him when he was young, and I'm just going by hearsay a little bit. And I've been hearing an awful lot from Yochum how good he was. I mean, he had to tell me, right? Coming up here today to Fred's home, he said, over there is where I pitched my first no-hitter in Green Park. There isn't a day he doesn't let me know what the hell he accomplished. I'll tell you that very much.
That's pretty well said. That's pretty well said.
So as a pitcher, you'd say he's a pretty good talker, pretty good PR guy?
Well, you know, Satchel Paige told me a lot of things about pitching. I was a kid, and I sat on the bench so much in the big leagues as a player, they called me Judge. And that was my nickname because I was always on the bench. And I'd go out in the bullpen with my left-hand catcher's glove just so I could move around a little bit and warm up the pitchers. And when Satchel joined the Kansas City Athletics after I had been a teammate of his in 1957 at Miami, AAA and International League, Satchel and I got to be very close. And he told me a lot of things. And one thing he always says about pitching, he said, you can't talk the ball over home plate. And he also didn't like to run. He said, you can't run it over home plate either. He said, you got to throw it. Now, Satch had great control, and watching Terry pitch in the Legends camps, were the only place I've ever seen him really perform, Satchel used to warm up with a Wrigley Spearmint gum wrapper. That was his home plate, and he could throw the ball over that. And I was amazed that Terry would never walk anybody. He'd always make him hit the little curved ball or a little sinker or something, and that's why he was successful down there. Because if he'd had any kind of smoke at all in the ball, some of the bellies those guys got, you just pitch them under a boiler, there's no way they could touch it. You know, I wish you could just throw a little bit harder.
Yeah, me too, Whitey.
Yeah.
The gas is gone.
Or
now,
you
Whitey.
should be left-handed.
Yeah, I should have been left-handed, man. It's Chuck and Duck now,
Right.
Whitey. It's Chuck and Duck, yeah.
One moment. Whitey, occasionally your watch is tapping up against the table.
Oh, okay.
So just, okay.
How'd the other players on the teams respond to Terry?
What's that?
How did the other players on the teams in the fantasy camp respond to Terry? Did he have an effect?
Well, I don't think any of them asked him for professional help. I don't know of any of them. They call him. There's a lot of guys called Doc down there. Doc Savage. I don't know how he got that name, Doc. I don't know what he's a doctor of, but Dr. Ted Savage, ex-ball player. But I mean, after Yochum made that first start and pitched very well that first day, his teammates reacted very well, because you can't believe all the ball fours and high pitch counts. And when he goes out there, you know, he can retire them in 3, 4, 5 pitches by making them hit the ball. And as old as they are, and they don't like to stand out there in the outfield too long and so forth, he's everybody's buddy who's on his team.
Well, Whitey did something very nice to me. I don't know if you remember it, but I'll never forget it. We were in the morning afters when your coach will come up, and it's like a post-game report. It's the next morning. And you're in the locker room there at Jupiter, Florida, where the Cardinals have their spring training facilities. And, our coach will stand up. Well, mine was Jose Akendo. Had Akendo and had Dave LaPointe the last time, right? Left-hander. So they came up and they talked. And I was lucky enough to be able to pitch the first game, because after the first game, it's over, man. I mean, the gas is gone, right? So you're fresh the first game. You'd like to pitch the first game on Thursday, right? If you're going to come back and do any more, you got to pitch Thursday so you can maybe throw Saturday if you got anything left, right? So I got to pitch that game, and I lost that game 2-1. But the guy I was pitching against is really kind of a legend guy in that camp. Noble's been certainly one of the very best players.
Yeah, right. MVP a couple times,
MVP,
outstanding player twice.
Shortstop, great hitter, and of course I pull him, right? I'm pitching against him, and I took that game 1-0 into the 7th, and I wound up losing game 2-1. But it was a good game, and we just didn't hit him. I mean, he struck out a bunch of guys. I struck out quite a few. He struck out more than me. So the next day in the post-game thing, the guys made something, and Whitey says, "I want to say something." Well, Whitey Herzog wants to say something. They're going to part the waters. He's going to say something. So he got up, walked up to the microphone, and he says, "Where's Terry Yochum at?" Well, I'm in the back of the room hiding because I figured I got shit coming my direction now. I don't know what it's going to be. And he said it again. I kind of raised there's 100 guys in the room, all dressed up. Here I am. He says, "How old are you?" I said, "Well, I'm 58. "Okay, sit down." "Where's Noble at?" Remember you did this. "Where's Noble at?" Well, Noble's, I think the guy was a college player, maybe an All-American. He was a very good player. Well known. Everybody would draft Noble. Noble raised his hand. Yeah. "How old are you?" Says, 38. Whitey says, "Well, I just want you to remember, you won that game yesterday, but it wouldn't have been for that rickety dick little hit that was hit off of Yochum, you'd have lost. You're 20 years younger. Sit down. Don't forget about it." That was the nicest thing you could have ever done for me. Once he said that, man, I felt like king walking around there, because Whitey acknowledged I'd pitched a pretty good game against a guy 20 years younger than me. Ex-MVP.
The slogan in that league, that Legends camp, when you're managing the big leagues and you're out there every day, when a player comes back, "Hey, get him next time. He'll be all right." In that camp, you say, "Get him next year."
Get him next year.
Always next year.
And then on Sunday, White, tell him what goes on Sunday. After we play 5 games and we're all limping, then we play the pros. You guys are no dumps. You wait till we're all limping around, then we play against the pros on Sunday. So that's
actually, the way it works on Sunday, it's really a tough thing for the Legends. I mean, because they got each pitching coach pitches 3 innings against his team, or through their lineup, it might be 11 2-hitters more than that, or something like that. But everybody gets a hit against their team. But the bad thing about that, we don't have enough position players. Some of them are so crippled up. It's really a 27-inning ball game, because last year they had an extra team there, and
so each team has one
has 3 innings, and that means them Legends are out there in the field all the time, and they can't do that. So I've suggested they get some young release minor league players to come in there and play defense, especially for the Legends, and just let the Legends hit like every inning, like Brock and the guys who are there. I think the fans would enjoy it. But the Legends have never lost to their teams, except 2 years ago. Al Roboski started the game, and he got lit up in the first inning, give up 5 runs.
Big time.
And he's the only guy that ever pitched against his baseball team down there that got beat. And we won't let him up, boy. We tell him about it all the time.
He got hit hard.
Oh, yeah.
A team from Cape Girardeau.
He was upset.
Oh, I know he was.
Oh, a left-hand hitter took him downtown.
Yeah, hit him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's his name? Earl's team beat him. Earl from Cape Girardeau.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, it was the Cape
Earl
Girardeau
loads
team.
up, he recruits, and he gives them a lot of money down there, and
He's
they
got
take care of him. They always slip in a sleeper or two.
He's got a cherry-picked team.
Yeah,
That's right.
right.
So Al got hit pretty hard. That's the first time. What is this? 10 years they're doing the camp now? 8 years, something like that. The first time that one run, forget losing, that one run had ever been scored in any inning. You're talking 3 innings times 8, 24 innings times 10 years. And Al Robowski went out there and some left-hander hit one over the fence.
Yeah,
I thought he was going to go out of his mind.
He gave up 5 runs.
Yeah, 5 runs in the first inning. His ears are still ringing. But I remember that day, Lou Brock, he's batting. I pitched against Lou Brock twice. First time I pitched against Lou Brock was bases loaded. And, it's Sunday now. So I've pitched Thursday, probably 5 or 6. Saturday, maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5. I got nothing. I mean, I can't even wipe my ass, I got nothing, right? That's what my coach used to say. How's your arm feel? Well, you've been pitching. He never asked me how my arm feels. If he needed me to pitch on sharp, he said, can you wipe your ass? Yeah, you can pitch. You know what that's about, right?
That's right.
So I go to warm up and pitch and whatever, and here's Lou Brock. And I got nothing. I mean, I've pitched already, whatever the hell, I shot my watt. And here's Lou Brock, and his bases loaded. And I throw this first pitch to Lou Brock, penis and Broadway, right down and he hits a rocket. About knocks over the first baseman, catches it, and the guy, he's not much of an athlete. How the hell he caught it, I don't know. He catches the ball, and the momentum knocks the guy on his butt with bases loaded, and he was out. And Brock's standing there just shaking his head because it's a triple any way you look at it because he can still run. And then last year, well, I missed it last year, but the year before, I pitched against him again. And I got him out, but it was no out. Forget about that, right? He went 7 for 9, Brock did, 2 years ago. He had one bounce off the fence. Brock can still swing it. And I got him on a little changeup on the outside corner. He hit it pretty damn good. He hit it very high and very strong. And here's Lou Brock, just, how he used to run like that, coming right behind the mound. And he just looked at me. He didn't say a word. And I've had breakfast with him. I know him. He just went like this, Whitey. I only missed it by that much, and he didn't have to say much. He hit a major league fly ball. So that's been fun. The challenge to pitch against somebody like Lou Brock. I pitched against Kenny Reitz. I pitched against Tommy Herr. And the different things. So, whether you get him out or you don't get him out, the chance that you can even just pitch against him, be on the same field with him, is a dream for guys like us.
Right. Sure.
And,
Well, the best hitter down there is Worrell.
oh yeah.
You put Todd Worrell out in the outfield when he's got his 3 innings. He goes out and plays in the outfield before he pitches. And he pitches 3 and goes back and plays somewhere all the time. Tudor the same way, but Worrell, I mean, he can smoke that ball.
And Bennis too.
Yeah.
Andy Bennis.
Well, they're young yet, so you
Yeah.
got to remember, Todd's maybe 35.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bennett was probably just about the same age, between 37, something like that.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess you went to the Hall of Fame this year, and Bill Draghi was there, and Joel Green was there when your when Bruce Sutter went in, right?
Right.
How was that for you?
Yeah, it was very good. Then I had my dinner at my golf tournament, and I brought in my 3 Hall of Fame players: George Brett, Ozzie Smith, and Bruce Sutter, and we honored them. We had a great turnout and a lot of good times. And then I got to see Bruce opening day. And he said, I want to come back to your golf tournament again. He said, I just want to drive the beer cart, but I had such a good time. So he wants to come in again this year. So I said, Bruce, you can come anytime you want. You and Yogi got a standard invitation.
Yeah. And when do you do that, Whitey?
I'm going to have mine this year, September 16th, the dinner at Forest Hills. And September 17th, I have a morning flight, 8 o'clock, and an afternoon flight at 1. We have about 50 teams play on Monday. And
wow.
18 in the morning and 32 in the afternoon. It's quite a shindig, and we sell out the dinner all the time. Yeah.
Then who's the best hitter ever played for you?
Well, Brett's the best hitter I ever. George Brett, he didn't need a manager. He needed a father, maybe to tell him how to act off the field once in a while. Not that he acted bad. He just burned the candle at both ends. He was single, never married till he was 40. Got up to the big leagues when he was 21. But he's the kind of kid that he'd get hurt and get bruised up. He'd come out to the stadium at 6 o'clock in the morning and get the keys from the security guard, go in the trainer's room and treat himself, be ready to play that night, and not waited for the bus or the guys to get out there. He'd do it himself. He really was, him and I remain very good friends. We talk a lot on the phone, but he was a tremendous hitter. Very good 2-strike hitter, and I'd have to put... I had a lot of good hitters. McRae was a good hitter. Hernandez was a good hitter.
There was a guy in the camp when I was there 2 years ago that I hadn't seen in quite a long time, and he got a hit that he hit a ball he never should have been pitched to. He should have gone to first base with 4 balls. How Tommy Lasorda ever pitched to him, I'll never know. Jack Clark.
Jack Clark. Well,
What
if Jack would play today, he hit 37 home runs before he got hurt in '87. and he got hurt on September 3rd. At that particular time, I think he had 139 strikeouts, and he'd have been the first hitter in the history of baseball that would have walked and struck out over 300 times the same year. And you would think Babe Ruth would have done that, but he hadn't. He was on his way to breaking that record, having 300 plate appearances without hitting a baseball. I'm talking about strikeouts and walks.
Yeah, Clark. Wow.
But if he would play today the way the ball's juiced up and with the new parks being as small as they are, I don't know how many home runs he hit because, you know, he just overpowered the ball and he could pull a bullet, but he guessed a lot. And he took a lot of 2-0 fastballs, 3-1 fastball because he didn't think they were going to throw him fastball. I'd sit there a lot of times, shake my head, but he had thunder in his bat. I mean, he was the strongest guy that I guess ever played for me.
Jack Clark. Yep. Well, he's still a big guy in the camp. I'm glad I didn't have to pitch against him 2 years ago. I think he can still swing it. I don't know how Lasorda pitched to him. I bet you've heard him about that, haven't you?
I don't like to, second guess another manager, but I've always, Tommy and I are very good friends. He came in as my main speaker 3 years ago, and I always thank him for pitching Jack Clark.
And Whitey, you know, I talked to my coach about it this morning. Coach Ray Cliff was here, and I think maybe it's, I'm still playing in the senior league. It isn't any different now, Whitey, than it was when we were younger. There were two guys off my high school team, both signed pro contracts with the Cardinals, both went away, neither one of them made it. Those guys were offered more money than me, and they got a shot. Neither one of them were as big as me. And I've just lived this, and even into my senior leagues, playing in the leagues in the 30 and over, 40 and over. I'm just telling you, the left-hand pitching has always been giving all these teams tough. The good left-hand pitchers really work over these good left-hand hitters. And when I played, when I got to the higher levels, I pitched for Joe Yules down in Cape Girardeau. If I really got at the highest level, I had a really hard time getting those left-hand hitters out, and so I've always lived some dementia. I don't know if it's my own Grimm's fairy tale, that if I would have been left-handed, I might have got a little better shot, might have been a little bit better. I don't know. How do you feel about that, being left-handed yourself as a pitcher?
Well, basically, a left-handed pitcher has the biggest advantage than anybody in baseball. And I remember when I went to the Mets after I got left Findlay over in Kansas City, 1966, and I was the third base coach. And then the next year, Bing Devine made me his special assistant and let me run the draft. And we'd never finished out of 10th place. And Bing says, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, first of all, I'm going to draft every left-hand pitcher I can draft." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Well, I told him. I said, because if I can draft 25 times and draft 18 left-hand pitchers, if I come up with two of them, I can change this organization around in a hurry." Well, we were lucky. We got Charlie Hudson, and we got Jesse Hudson, we got John Matlack. We come up with about 3-4 guys that eventually pitched in the big leagues. And you all know we were the first expansion team to ever win a World Championship. And this was 1967, and we won a World Championship in 1969. And at that time, it was an expansion team. You didn't go out and buy players like you do today. You drafted players that nobody else wanted. They were all 40 years old, making a lot of money. And the Mets were, I think, their first year of expansion, they lost 120-some games or something like that, the most in history. So we kind of turned that franchise around. And the reason I say that is the left-hand pitcher's advantage is he makes switch hitters hit from the right side. The lineup is dominated from the right side. You've got a lot better chance of doubling a player up on a ground ball. The left-hand hitters, because they haven't seen as many left-handers like myself, I never faced a left-hander in my life till I got to pro ball. And all of a sudden, my first 2 weeks of pro ball, I had one stretch where I faced 9 left-handers in 11 days. Well, if you're playing every day in the minors, you're going to learn to hit left-handers. But even today, and I want to say this, there's a lot of right-handed hitters don't hit left-handers. And the Cardinals, even to this day, and you people here in St. Louis being Cardinal fans, they have a lot of trouble with a predominant right-hand hitting lineup of scoring against left-hand pitching.
Yeah, that cutter down and in is really hard for the righty
Well,
to hit.
it seems to me that a left-handed pitcher can pitch successfully in the big leagues with 75 to 80% of stuff that a right-hander does. I don't think a right-hand pitcher as a whole can be successful throwing 87, 88 as much as a left-hand pitcher. For some reason, it's more movement, maybe. You know, there's really only one other sport, and not that a left-hander has got an advantage, because the left-hander can only play first base, the 3 outfield positions, and pitch. But there's really only one other sport that really favors left-hander, and that's the bowling.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
All good left-handers bowlers they're the best, because they don't use that side of the alley. The alley's all better. Their breaking ball breaks better, and they can control it better. But baseball, if I had to start a team, and they say all the pitchers you've ever seen, you got one choice, I'd have to take Koufax.
Sure.
And now, if I had to start a team today, everybody says Pujols the best hitter and the best player in the National League. I'm not too sure I wouldn't take that shortstop for the Mets. He hits 320, he hits 20 homers, he steals 50 bases, he plays great. Rios, I'm talking about. Yeah, he's a tremendous player. And Albert, you got to give him credit. He might be the best 2-strike hitter I ever saw. I always thought Cardi and Yogi and George Brett were. But I watched him now for 6 years, and they're still trying to get him, pitch him inside with 2 strikes, and you can't get him out in there. And the other thing, it's unbelievable with him, they can come in hard, 94, 95. He never hits a line drive foul. It's always right down the left field line fair. How he can do that, I don't know, but he does it. But for some reason, they keep trying to get him out in there, and they can't do it.
You know, makes me, kind of warms my heart to hear you say that a guy pitching left-handed could have about 75% of that stuff and be dominant and win. The right-hander would have to be quite a bit better in order to be that successful.
Right. I really, over my years in professional ball, I've watched that a lot, and I know that it's a tremendous amount of advantage for that left-hand pitcher for some reason. But I've heard old-timers, I've heard Warren Spahn say that we can't throw a ball straight. You know, I don't think. Why should hit a left-hander's ball move more than a right-hander's ball?
But it does, Whitey.
But it's basically because from the time you play baseball, you face more right-hand pitchers than left-handers. That's the advantage the left-hander has.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's been the same in the senior league in my second career. It was the same when I was younger, and I always felt the same way. You know, that if I'd had that advantage, because you know the left-handers, they're not seeing them good breaking balls.
Yeah.
And there's only a few Keith Hernandez. There's only a few Stan Musials who can hit it. You know, I know Dr. Bill Draghi is a friend of yours,
Yeah,
and
but
he's
let me
treated
ask
your
you this
family.
while we're talking here. How many left-handed chiropractors are there? I think you've done a heck of a lot better than a lot of left-handers went in the Pro Bowl.
Well, you're being pretty kind. I remember Stan Musial. I went to Dr. Bill Draghi's wedding, and you were there sitting at table. Remember they had the numbers? You were there sitting at table number 6 with Stan Musial. You and Mary Lou, right?
Right.
My mom was alive then, and I was sitting at this Logan Chiropractic College table with the president, remember? Because Dr. Draghi got married there. So I came up, and we chatted a little bit, and I had the opportunity to speak to Stan Musial that night and get a picture with him. And I'll tell you, what a gentleman. He was my hero. I mean, of all players ever,
Right.
Musial and Bob Gibson, as a pitcher. And we were talking, and remember he has the harmonica. He's always playing the harmonica, wants to play the harmonica.
Yeah.
And I said to him, you know, Mr. Musial, there's two records that you have that I think will never be broken. Because I, read the book on them and everything. He said, what's that? I said, you hold the record, I believe, for the most back-to-back home runs in any one day. 5, right? And he said, well, that's because it was a doubleheader, and there was 4. And at Polo Grounds, I think, and then the 5th one in the second game. And Shags Crawford was up at home plate, and he come around, start that second game. Crawford had been on first, he come in there, and the catcher, I'm trying to remember who the catcher's name, it escapes me for the moment, said, how are we going to hit him out now? He got 4 in a row. Shags Crawford said, well, you better pitch behind him because I don't think you're going to get him out today, right? And he hit the 5th one. But the thing that I thought was the most remarkable statement from Stan Musial was, because he's been a very humble man. He has a lifetime batting record of 330 batting left-handed against left-hand pitching, batting left-handed against right-hand pitching. And I said, that was your record. And you hit the same left-handed pitching is you hit right-hand pitching. And you know what Stan Musial said to me? I'll never forget it. And it really is a reflection of his personality. He turned to me, he said, Terry, he says, I guess I should hit them righties a little better, huh?
Yeah, but you know, when I look back at those teams, and you were living here, and I lived across the river over in a small town, when the Cardinals got rid of Walker Cooper and sold him in 1947 to the Giants, they unbalanced their power, and the only right-handed power hitter they had was a cripple on third baseman by the name of Karofsky. And I've talked to Musial a lot about this. He said from that day on, he said we were never the same team. They won the pennant World Series in '46, and then they'd finish real tight with the Dodgers every year, with the Giants and so forth, but they never won. And he says that was the thing, that we could have won 6, 7, 8 pennants, maybe world championships in a row, if they'd have kept Walker Cooper. And at the time, Fred Sy, I think, was the owner, and he was having some tax problems, had notes of money to the government, and he sold him for $165,000 to the Giants, which was a lot of money, but they never got anything. And that's when they start going with Joe Garagiola and Del Rice, and that was a big hole now that they took out of their lineup when they lost Walker Cooper. Walker Cooper was one heck of a ball player. He went over the Giants in 1967 when they set the home run record. He hit 37 home runs that year, and that was unheard of for a catcher in those days.
What about yourself? What was your, how old were you when you signed? Where'd you play? And
Well, actually, I was a better basketball player than I was a baseball player. I was from a small school over in New Athens, only had about 100 students, 50 boys, and we went, finished 37-2 in basketball, lost 2 games, about 1 point, lost in sectional to Nashville overnight at Temple. Had to play on glass backboards. We'd never seen one. We went to the finals of the state in baseball. We beat 3 teams that had more teachers than we had students. And yet we had to play a championship game for the state, and I never played a night game. And a guy hit a ball beyond the lights, and I went back, and like I do in the daytime, took my eye off of it. When I turned around, I couldn't find it because it was dark, and we got beat 4-2, and I lined into a double play with the base loaded 9th inning. So then I signed with the Yankees. I was 17. I was only 5'9", 150. Went down to McAllister, Oklahoma. I should have went to college. I didn't like the books. I loved baseball. I had a basketball scholarship to St. Louis U, won a combined baseball and basketball Illinois, Southern Illinois, Kirksville. I had 7 basketball scholarships and the combined one in Illinois. It turned out all right, but Terry, I wouldn't recommend that for any 18-year-old boy or 17-year-old boy, because you go out and break a leg and you can't advance. You're much better off today with the way our society is. Go to college, go at least 3 years. And if you want to sign a baseball contract after that, then go out and play. And you can go back to college in the fall and get your education.
How long did you play in the big leagues?
Well, I was lucky enough to get about 9 years in the big leagues. And
you played with the Yankees?
I signed with the Yankees. Then I got to AAA, and I went to Yankee spring training twice. That's when I got to know Stengel. And then I got traded to the Washington Senators on April Fool's Day, Easter Sunday, 1956. And played 2 years there, and then I went to Kansas City for 3, Baltimore for 2, and then went to Detroit. And I got to Detroit, and I had a virus settle in my nervous system in spring training, and I was in a hospital quite a bit. I lost my reflexes. I wasn't going to play anyway. The 4 positions I could play, they had Norm Cash, who hit .380 the year before at first, and they had Colavito on left, and Billy Bruton in center, and Kaline on right. So unless there was a bone sticking out, I wasn't going to get to play much. But not that I'm making excuses. I didn't get to play much or pinch hit much. I lost my reflexes, and I was a basketball referee, and I was getting into Missouri Valley MCAU conferences and working some games out in Colorado for Beebe Lee. And I went home that fall. I had 55 nights scheduled, and I couldn't blow the whistle. I could see the play, but I couldn't react. And when I talk about that virus settling in my nervous system, I had lost my reflexes. And I called Detroit up, talked to the general manager, Jim Campbell, and told him that I would put me on a voluntary retirement list. I was going to quit playing. Well, that was the start of something happening good for me, because once I quit trying to play, and you've heard my statement and my quote, baseball was very good to me. I worked for Big Divine. I got into high-level scouting. I got in to run the minor league system for the Mets. I did about everything, coaching at the big league level. And then I got an opportunity to manage, which Ted Williams talked me into going to Texas, which was a mistake because I turned down about 4 or 5 jobs prior to that. But the guy that was the general manager at Texas left Texas and went to Kansas City. And after I got fired down in Texas and Billy Martin was hired, I went to the Angels as a coach. And as soon as they needed a manager in Kansas City, I got hired by the general manager that was at Texas. So I got 5 years there, and then I got the 10 here. Probably dug my own bed as far as quitting too early. I could be up there now, with 3,000 wins and so forth. But I knew with my relationship with Gussie Busch and the 10 years that I had here with the Cardinals, that I knew after he died that I would never be happy managing again, because you couldn't have a better relationship with an owner than I had. And that's when I decided I better get out before I'd probably be dead if I kept managing.
Your managing and your ability to get the players you needed kind of occurred over Braunschweiger and a Michelob, didn't it? Out at Green's Farm?
Yeah. I mean, Gussie was a tremendous guy, and I could call him up. I know he didn't get up till around noon. I'd call him up at 11 and say, draw me a Michelob and fix me a Braunschweiger sandwich. Good, he said, I'll talk to you. Well, we'll have a good afternoon. Well, we had a lot of good afternoons, and we did a lot of things, made a lot of deals out there.
Yeah, and he really gave you the reign, but like Ozzie Smith, the deal with Ozzie Smith, the trade on Ozzie Smith, that's worth telling. That was a great story.
When I came here, Gussie, I think, was 87. And, he told me he wanted to win one more time. And, of course, we were able to turn it around. I traded 14 players, got 11 back the first year in 81 of the draft. Everybody said I was nuts. Well, we had a big ballpark, and it would take us 12 hits to score 3 runs. We had really good hitters on the team when I came here. We had Simmons and Kennedy as catchers. We had Hernandez on first. Oberfelt was a good young hitter. Templeton, I'm sorry, was there, the shortstop. It had 200 hits, 100 from each side. First switch hitter ever do that. So we had the hitting, but we could get 12, 13 hits and still only score. It'd take us 4 hits to get a run. And I'll never forget the little clubhouse guy, Butch Yochum, who had been with the Cardinals 57 years. And we had a big park in Old Bush before they brought the fences in. And I said, Bush, I'm going with geography. What do you mean? I said, I'm going with speed. And I said, I'm going to clean house, and I'm going to play a different type of baseball here. And that's kind of the way we played in Kansas City. Their ballpark was big too, and we were very successful. And I knew that I had to get a closer, because that's how I lost 3 playoffs to the Yankees in Kansas City. They had Sparky Lyle and Goose Gossage in the bullpen, and I had Hungo Mungo, the duck and the bird. And in a 5-game series, that didn't work very good. And we got beat 3 times in the 9th inning of the 5th game. So I went and made the Suter trade. I told our scouts, get speed. We started getting speed. We traded for Bob Sykes to get Willie McGee, who turned out to be a steal. And we just started putting it together. We drafted Coleman. We thought he was going to go to the National Football League as a punter. And he thought he was going to go as a punter. When they found out that he wanted him to run the punts back, he took baseball. And I can see why. But anyway, things kind of fell in place. And, the Ozzie Smith trade, trading Templeton to get him, that put the final notch on the team that we had, a good team for 10 years. We changed a lot of faces. But the core of that team, with Porter from 80 to 85, Hernandez, of course, was here for the 82 championship, and we had to send him to New York. And we had Tommy, Her, and Ozzie Smith were tremendous ball players. Obi playing third base on the World Championship team, very good. It might have been the best defensive infield ever put together. And then we had the Jackrabbits, a lot of speed in the outfield. And playing in a ballpark that was 350 down the lines, 385 in the gaps, and 425 to center, we could cut off a lot of triples and make singles, where when we'd hit the same ball, we'd get triples. And every year we'd start out, and we tried to break Maris's record as a team of 61 home runs. And after I leave here, they got one guy breaking that record, But we won a World Championship in 1982 with a total of 67 home runs, and Milwaukee hit 228.
Wow.
And we were able to beat them. And then
How'd you get Ozzie here from? How'd you get into this cold weather from San Diego?
It was tough, but Mrs. Kroc, the McDonald owner's wife, Ozzie was a gardener during the strike, and then the agent after the strike asked for $25 million for 5 years, and we only had $1 million ball player at the time, so he was on the block, and I was able to get him and talk him into coming here, and I didn't know whether that was going to happen, but I did get on an airplane on December 26 in 1981, flew to San Diego, met Ozzie, met his agent, told him what I'd pay him, and if he wanted to stay in St. Louis, I'd sign him to a long-term contract. If he didn't like St. Louis, didn't like me, didn't like the Cardinals, I'd give him his release at the end of the year. So here he come, 10 below zero. Him and his wife looked like two Eskimos when I went out in the lobby to meet him. I said, ain't no way they're coming to St. Louis. But Bob Forsch and a couple of guys took him out to dinner, and I think he took him out to Chesterfield, showed him the houses where all of them were living, and 10 days later, Ozzie says he'd come. So that was the happiest day of my life.
Oh, I'll bet, huh? Because he was the kind of the final catalyst, right?
Yeah, he could play, and played hurt. He was a tremendous ball player.
Yeah, his release was, didn't have the major league arm, but he had the major league release. Huh?
Yeah.
Quick.
Well, even after he hurt his rotor cuff, there's something about him that he would always find a way to do it. And I'm sure you got patients with low tolerance, high tolerance. He could play with banged up knees. He could play with pain in his shoulder. But he always found a way to do it. Now, when he couldn't plant and throw from the hole, which he never really could throw from the hole by planting like other shortstops, he learned how to surround the ball and throw on the run from the hole. Yeah. Now, there was a lot of showman in him. He made a lot of diving stops. I've never seen a shortstop anywhere since or before or after ever dive that many times. I mean, but Ozzie had made 2 diving plays every night, but he never missed getting the guy. And the people loved that. And I played with the greatest defensive third baseman in the history of the game, probably in Brooks Robinson. And he was like that, too. He couldn't run. He was about a 4.6 runner at first base, had a below average arm. But his first step was so quick that he made more plays at third base. And it seemed like he took 2 hits away from the opposition every night. Well, Ozzie did that, and that's why I made him one of the $2 million ball players when I did.
Yeah, you bet. Well, Whitey, thanks a lot. I guess we'll wrap
Well, we
it up.
got enough here for
sure
at least 500-page book.
Sure should have been left-handed, Whitey.
I know.
Sure should have been left-handed.
I wish
Whitey.
I'd have
God
been
bless you.
right-handed, and I wish you'd have been left-handed.
That's a nice way to end it. All right.
Great.